Hello, welcome to Steel City Business, the Sheffield Business Podcast. I'm James Marriott. I'll be your host as we explore the vibrant business scene of the glorious city of Sheffield. Now, in each episode, we meet someone from across the Steel City to learn more about them and, of course, their business. I run my own business. It's called Sound Media, and it's all about helping brands to amplify their voice through audio marketing. If you want to find out more, then head to the show notes. There's more information there. And this podcast is supported by the lovely people at The Curious, creative agency in the centre of Sheffield. Now, if you'd like to get in touch with us, maybe to suggest a guest or for any reason, then there are contact details in these show notes, or head to steelcity.business. Right, that's enough of that. Let's meet our guest.
Hello, I'm Gerry Arcari. I'm the founder and CEO of Vivid Creative in Sheffield.
Thank you for joining us today, Gerry. It's good to have you on the show. We talk a bit on this show kind of about businesses that are celebrating milestones and, 5 years, 10 years. Generally, these days, a decent milestone in business. You trump all of these. Tell us about your business anniversary that you've got going on.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's been coming up now in July. It's going to be 25 years. So
wow.
Quarter of a century. It's gone so quickly. I can't even imagine how it's been that long. But that's how it is.
I was going to ask, does it feel like, because 25 years is a long time for anything, isn't it? You kind of think about when someone says, I've been in the same job for 25 years, that feels like a long time now.
It is. It's been a lifetime, hasn't it? But because I think I've enjoyed it so much, because it is a passion, what I do, it doesn't feel like that length of time. Yeah. And obviously, it's really dynamic. You're dealing with different clients. Every day's different. Actually, it just becomes, I guess, a way of life more than a job or work.
That totally makes sense. Makes sense. I when someone says, it was 25 years ago, I think, oh, you mean in the 80s then? And my brain can't compute the fact that 25 years ago is actually 1999, which is actually, I think, about 4 years ago. But interesting, 1999 was also the year that I started work. So it's a year that I remember pretty clearly. The internet existed, but not that many people had it. Email was a thing, but again, it wasn't the main source of communication. In fact, I remember I was working at a newspaper. We used to get most press releases through by fax. And you say that to some people now, and they're like, I'm sorry, what? What are you saying there? The world's changed a lot, hasn't it, in that 25 years? How have you seen things change? Yeah,
massively. In one of my early jobs, I actually sort of brought computerization into the business.
Oh, wow, right.
They didn't have computers. It was a local Sheffield manufacturing company that everyone will know called Rab.
Yeah.
It's Rab Carrington, the jackets, the down jackets and sleeping bags. I think Rab had this... he had a computer with a sort of, this green thing going across. I can't remember what it's called now, the system. Something like Pegasus or something, I don't know.
Okay,
but, so anyway, I rocked up and said, right, I want this new Mac, and I had one of the new Macs. I think it was a purple one, those lovely clear case with the iMacs. And he was watching me install this, him and his wife, and I could just see that he's a really clever guy, and his mind was whirring, and immediately he went and bought a computer for his kids.
Right,
I just saw the power of it immediately. So I came in as a production manager there. He had 50 seamstresses working. I was looking after the key accounts. I'd been around to speak to everybody. They were complaining about lack of deliveries and et cetera, et cetera. So part of that first job really for the first year was computerising the system, doing standard minute values. Nothing to do with marketing, by the way, at this point. But I just used all the skills I had to bring this to fore. And it turned out when I looked at all the orders that we had, finger in the air to say, well, I reckon we can sell a bit more than that. Maybe how much more could we sell? 50% more? Who knows? We don't know. So started working it all out. Said, you've got to start making much earlier now. You've got to start making in March. You're not sort of waking up in July thinking, I might make some jackets for winter now. So anyway, I got involved with the bank manager came down, the material manufacturers, everyone came. We had this meeting. I had to present to them. This is amazing. This is back in the day. Me making these recommendations, and it went, and we started making, and sure enough, the turnover of that business went up 65%.
Wow!
Straight away off the back of that. And that's, really, there was a job before that I can talk about, but that's what really piqued my interest in my ability to help an organisation grow. And I went from that and I took it I led the sales team then, and then I started the marketing as well. So, and that was really that proper foundation for me to go forward into Vivid, the agency.
So those early days of working, then you weren't particularly in marketing, and I asked that because I kind of think, I mean, everyone works in marketing now, don't they? Like just about anything that anyone, even people that work in sales now, their job title probably says marketing. Whereas in the late 90s, early noughties, when someone was working in marketing, it was probably generally like writing things and quite specific kind of stuff, like graphic design would have been classed as marketing and things. It was a bit more specific.
Yeah, it was, yeah. And so I had a job before there, which was Terra Nova Equipment, another outdoor company that made geodesic tents.
Right.
And I got a job there as a customer services advisor for 6 months standing, and then they kept me on. And I had the job title sort of projects coordinator without portfolio, which was just fantastic. So I was exposed there. I was working with the marketing manager there. I was working with the production manager. I was working with customer services. I was working with sales. And it was that first job where I had a bit of a free hand that sort of gave me that rounded view of business. And it really sort of focused me on that marketing side of things, thinking, well, I can do this in for one company. I can do it for another company.
Yeah.
I think I can bring this to a lot of other companies, and I can help business owners improve. And I had to learn on the journey. Yeah, so my skills have been learnt in 2 businesses specifically, probably for about 7 years, and then it went straight through into the agency side, which I knew nothing about when I set it up, which was quite a daunting prospect at the time, actually.
So how have you seen marketing change? Because email lists, I'm assuming, I mean, I can't remember very well, but I'm assuming they weren't a thing in 99. Social media, Facebook, what? No one heard of any of that stuff.
No.
How were you marketing things when you first set up? I mean, the business must have looked completely different then.
It was. We were, although when I set from the get-go, we were building websites using Flash, so there were websites straight out the bat.
They were dark old days, weren't they? Flash, blimey.
Yeah. Our website had a sheep game on it. It was quite funny. You had to shoot, the sheep would fall down and explode. It was just wacky days back then,
Kind of miss that stuff, actually.
We do, yeah. And there was lots of, for retail, it was literally magazine ads, impression. You were paying for, a full page in an ad or two. A double brace spread, and did you get inside cover, back cover? And it was very hard to track your efforts, to be honest with you. There was a lot of work we did. Obviously, there was a lot of brand design we were doing, catalogues. There was a lot of print design. Catalogues were massive. Yeah. But also point of sale. We were doing a lot of point of sale and stuff, multilingual as well for the outdoor industry. We were working with Low Alpine. We worked in 8 different languages, workbooks. Everything now that's probably digitised would have then been printed. Everything needed cut. And even when you were doing photography back then, there was no digital photography. So you'd get the setup, you'd be working, you'd sense check it with a Polaroid, and you'd pull it out and go, is that what I want? Yeah, okay, and I'll rattle off another 30 shots on film. Then you had to wait for the film to go and get slides back. Then you'd look at the slide viewer. You'd be looking at which one's got the best colour, which best creases. Then you had to go and take them to a repro house to get the slides scanned in. Then you get the files back of it.
This is pretty much such memories for me. Obviously, starting out working at a newspaper where we had a team of photographers that you'd send out to take photos, and they had their own dark room. So they take a photo, come back. It'd be another 2-3 hours minimum before that photo's ready, and then someone would have to scan it so that it could then be used in the paper. And I remember the day that they bought their first digital camera that could only be used for like breaking news that needs to go straight to it. But even then, it was like they go out, take it, come back, plug it into the computer, download it, send it across. The minute just go out, just send it back. Like it feels kind of alien looking back. But there were such important steps that lead us to where we are now.
Yeah, it's just the speed that it's happened is just it's almost uncomprehendable, isn't it? How fast that transition has occurred, because for so long before that there was nothing, was there really? It was print had been around for hundreds of thousands of years,
Absolutely.
And then all of a sudden the digital transformation came. Yeah. Fantastic instant access to everything, but with that comes becomes issues, social issues,
Yeah.
and we are where we are today. The face of marketing's changed. It's great. I think these days it's, you can do a lot more, maximum impact, quite low budgets. Like last week, this week even, I was down in London with a client of ours. They're a e-commerce watch company, and we're just doing content on the iPhone, walking around London, taking some shots. They're not David Bailey shots, but the shots I took and we filtered, I'm really proud of them. I think they're lovely.
Awesome.
The capture, we just walked around candidly around Hatton Garden, just finding alleyways, nooks, crannies, steps, bars, hotels, and just getting photos on the hoof,
Yeah.
And that's, today that's, it's as good as you need in many circumstances, unless you're someone like Louis Vuitton, because content, it's all about content, and just the frequency of it, it's almost got to be going out daily these days, and that, I think that pressure of that is taking a bit of a toll on, the wider society, I think. So,
right.
When I look at it, you look at LinkedIn as a platform, and you feel the pressure of business owners feeling the need to be posting all the time about stuff, and sometimes the value of it's not very high, and there's very little engagement, and you think, how much time is going into that, and what are you getting back from it?
My worry with LinkedIn, is around kind of authenticity, I guess. That there's that pressure there, isn't there? That you've got to post every day, and it's got to be something that's really like insightful, or something that makes you look really busy. And it's like, just be yourself, just be authentic. Like, people might not like you, and that's fine, because they weren't going to like you anyway. It doesn't. The sooner they realise they don't like you, great. It's sorted. You're always going to arrive at that point. They weren't going to suddenly just spend loads of money with you and then decide they don't like you. So just be yourself. The other thing I was going to say, this is such a niche reference. Bear with me on this. Mm-hmm. I've just come back from being away in Sweden and Denmark for Eurovision. Anyone that's a regular watcher of the Eurovision will know that in between the songs, they have these things called postcards, which are little videos of the act that's about to come on and perform. So it gives them, it's a bit of time so they can change the props and stuff on the set, and they're called postcards. And they're normally quite produced videos of the artist in their home country, like running through a field of wheat or something like that. This year, they were all kind of selfie recorded videos by the artists, and just them doing their everyday stuff, walking down the street, standing at the top of their stairs or whatever, like cuddling their dog. Like, they were all selfie stuff that was clearly done on their own phone, some slightly grainier than others. And everyone was kind of like, isn't it nice just to get an insight into who they really are and what they really like? And it's like, any content is valuable if there's value there. And if it's boring, it's boring whether you spend £1 million on getting it really well produced. It's still going to be boring, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I did a post the other day on that on LinkedIn. Actually, I commented on a thread, and it was about that authenticity. Be yourself. Don't feel pressured to do anything you don't want to do. And stay off the subject of AI, but obviously with AI around, now you're always second guessing whether an image is like, where's that being produced? So that self-curated content off your own phone, not too many low-key filters on it.
Real.
So you don't look like pixies or angels. You look about 15 when you're about 35. That is what gets traction. We see it on the social platforms. It's that authenticity, being true to yourself, and like you say, let people decide whether they want to come and join in with the fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And not everyone is for everyone, and that's fine. That's the way of the world, isn't it? Things do change all the time, don't they? And I think, this sort of digital revolution that's happened within that 25-year period, I would imagine the way that the business works and the services that you offer and everything's changed, I guess, several times over. How have you kept up with trends rather than kind of staying very much in lane in, we do such and such, we write things or we design catalogues, and this new thing comes along and it's like, no, that's not what we do. Like, how have you found that line that's ultimately led to you kind of navigating through 25 years?
Yeah, it's a good question, actually, because it's I always like embracing everything, but I don't like embracing things too early, I don't think either. I like to see it. I want to see the proof of it before. Don't just dive in and start using platforms for the sake of it. Yeah, there's always that transition, and it usually revolves around teams and people that you employ that have got those skills, because obviously, myself or existing members of the team won't have those skills. So yeah, it's always about looking at a service, looking at its worth and value to clients, talking to clients about how that can, be monetized and what that does for the brand, trialing things. But I think, we did it with, we were building websites, and we at one point we were outsourcing them, and then we took the team on, and it sometimes with an agency it works like that, where you end up working with specialist freelancers or you outsource like white label or something. But then eventually when you get to an escalation of size, the commerciality means you bring it in-house and then you build a team around it. But quite interestingly, from we're a strategic sort of brand agency, but creative marketing as well. That, for me, hasn't, and this is quite a sort of a valid point for me, that has not changed. Being good at brand, 25 years of knowing brand and writing stories and narrative and positioning of brands. Everything else is channel-led, and this is a little bit of a beef I have with younger agencies who might look at us and go, "Well, you look a bit old school, you guys. You're a bit traditional." I'm like, no, sometimes traditional's good.
Yeah.
You want a good mechanic working on your car. You want someone who can actually work on your car. You don't want a young kid in a garage who's just been told how to bolt something on and off, because there's no, that's the difference, isn't it? Someone who can think. And this week we've been working with a company in Leeds. They've got because of investment and old shareholders, new shareholders, they need a name change in 2 weeks, and they're in the sort of technology sector.
Right.
Very, very difficult.
Wow. 2 weeks.
And we've got 2 weeks, and we've got to actually do the name generation, do all the checks, IP office, domains, web checks, get the name generation, get the logo done, get all the assets, create the brand. We've written the brand direction. That is a beautiful piece of work, and I love working on it. Yeah. And 3 or 4 of us will just sit in a back room and we'll start. And it's, that the art of that has not gone away. And I think the value that we add there is absolutely massive. And I love, that type of work still. But that does not mean I don't like digital stuff, and I like it. And but what I love is seeing that positioning and that top of the story narrative then going down into the specific channels with a different strategy around each of the channels. Yep. That's a different thing. Yep. So when we're up against other agencies or individuals, I picture that we're full service, and we do. People say, "What do you specialise in?" I'm saying, "Well, we are. I guess we always have been. We specialise in brand. However, we've got brand, we've got digital, and we've got performance marketing, and I've got heads of departments for each, and they are their own teams who are free thinking and almost like micro businesses within the main business. Yep. But we sit together and carve a strategy out together. So it does work like that. It works, and that's how we stay relevant.
Yeah,
is always looking back to this. And we call it this wisdom that we've got. 25 years, a lot of learning. Yeah. And I do underestimate a lot of how much I know and learn, and how I can come to, an issue or problem or an opportunity and just bring something just instantly to light, or bring something to the table and you just can't do that with 2 years experience.
I think, I'm a podcast guy, so I'm always going to kind of relate things to examples that's something to do with podcasting. But go back to 1999, the word podcasting had never been written down anywhere. No one even knew what it was. It wasn't a thing. If you got something to say about something, you'd have to go and get a job on a radio station. That was the way of the world there. And podcasting as a term, as a platform, was invented in 2004, so is 20 years old this year. But you strip it all back, and it's like, it's a vehicle to efficiently do something that we've been doing for a very long time, which is having conversations. Like, having conversations was not invented in 2004. That's not a new concept, right? We just, the way in which we can do that and have conversations at scale, that's relatively new. But, the fundamentals of people having conversations that are either interesting or they're boring. You can't take a a boring conversation and put some brilliant music at the beginning of it and edit it and stick some fancy graphics and stuff on a tile and say, oh, it's a brilliant podcast episode. It's still a boring conversation. It was a boring conversation 25 years ago. It was a boring conversation 50 years ago. It was a boring conversation 100 years ago. Just because you call it a podcast doesn't make it interesting. So I think you're right that a lot of the fundamentals of things don't change. The variables in the equation, which is the platforms and the methods and that kind of stuff, that does change and will continue to change, won't it? Like, if we had this conversation in another 25 years, heaven forbid, I'm not sure we get up those stairs, to be fair, to get to the studio, but it would all be completely different again. I won't be sat here going, isn't it strange how podcasting is exactly the same now as it was 25 years ago? I can't imagine that podcasting will still exist in its current format, but people having conversations, that will still exist. That will never stop, will it? And so much of that stuff about a brand that either engages someone and makes them think this is a brand for me, or it doesn't. How we get there is different now, but the fundamentals are still the same as they've always been. This is a really hard question to ask someone. What do you think about the future then? So there's that 25 years to reflect on. If you kind of had to look forward to what you think the next 25 years has in store, what are your thoughts?
Wow.
It's a bit of a question. I'm sorry. It really is.
It's quite tricky, I think.
It's a horrible. And I'm thinking about the same thing now. Is it? I don't know if it's even possible to do that. But you mentioned AI and said don't really want to get into that. Does that indicates you maybe have a slightly controversial view on that?
No, it's still an unknown entity, isn't it? And we know it's going to just evolve so rapidly. Whatever we think it is now, it's going to be 1,000 times that.
Yeah. Rewind 25 years of people talking about what the internet was going to be and what it's actually become, and what it's been in the intervening periods within that. Like, it's always changing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And AI has become a kind of overarching umbrella term for a lot of different stuff. So you're right. What actually that becomes.
Yeah, it's the same with, like we talked about social media. It's just making sure it's not abused, and and it will be. There'll be crime from it. It's going to be fake videos mocking people up. You're gonna get phone calls from your mother, and you won't know whether it's her or not. It's just I can just see some stuff. It's going to speed things up. It's going to help make faster decisions. I like the idea of automating stuff that was quite manual. We try not to use it at work at all, because I think I do it all the time when I write LinkedIn posts. I always do let's try it on the AI thing, and a lot of the time it can't change it, because I know I've written it so well it hasn't got a chance of writing it better than I have. But also there's that issue of, I think, how it is at the minute, that is just basically scraping everything, and I think there is a copyright issue there, because unless, I think if you've got a website, you should specifically give it permission. And obviously you've got Google for search, and Google's crawling your site. But if something's going to scrape it and regurgitate it for someone else's benefit, I don't think that's right. Because everything that's I've written or put out there on my social, I don't want that being R&D'd. Which is fine. And that's this. I think that's where. Yeah, I mean, trying to be really positive here, but I think there's this. You've asked me where it's going to go in 25 years, and I think it'll just. Currently, people are, since COVID as well, I think, a lot of people are working at home, they don't want to go out. And I heard a program the other day saying your average teenager does less exercise than someone who's locked up in prison who's forced to go out for an hour each day. And you think, is that true? Yeah, it probably is. And I go out, I see it with my lads, just Deliveroo, just everything's just on tap. You click your fingers, it just arrives. There's no reason for you to go out anymore. And I think, is that good for the human mind? I don't think it is. Where, one of our values is about being inquisitive and exposing yourself to new situations and going out and, doing that walk around in London. We probably could have done all that on AI if we wanted to, but it wasn't about that. It was about the experience of it. And what are generations ahead, what experiences are they going to bring to the table? They're certainly not going to bring some of this this grounded stuff, but they're going to be in a different stratosphere of social or computerization, or touch in the air, waving around, and things are happening. You see it in some of the sci-fi. I'm sure it's going that way, because everything we've seen in films has always happened, hasn't it?
It has.
everything you watch has happened. You know? You're like, wow, that's never. Oh, it has, yeah.
I'm still waiting for lightsabers to become an everyday product, but it'll happen. It'll happen.
That'd be cool. That. So as always, though, the human race, it just develops, and we'll see where it goes. And you just got to ride with it. I mean, you got to ride with it, but I think you've got to have some morality on the way, and decide whether you want to. I've shut down Facebook. And Twitter, because I don't like what goes on there.
Yeah.
I'm very, very big on LinkedIn and Instagram. I just like those platforms. Yeah. So that's a choice, isn't it? Everyone's got a choice. You don't have to use everything or follow everything. Yeah. And certainly, personally, I'm not on TikTok either, because I know quite an addictive character. If I went in there, and I spend hours on my phone anyway already. It's a little bit worrying, but through work, I'm using the phone for work more probably than my laptop or my desktop. So I'm giggling just because you get that Monday morning notification that comes through saying your screen time was down 2% last week. And I'm like, yes, get in, 2% down, come on. For an average of 18 hours per day. I'm like, yes, brilliant, down to 18 hours per day. Let's talk a bit about this year then. So 25 years is a brilliant landmark. What are you doing to celebrate? Yeah, well, it's July is the milestone. What we are doing, which is, and one of the reasons I wanted to come on here was to promote it, was that we're doing some charitable pieces of work, actually. Because it's 25 years, we've decided to split it into 4 quarters, and we've decided to give away or invest. I don't know which we're giving it away, but we're investing it in a bit of giving back. I'm always a big believer in giving back. £10,000 of free time each quarter.
Brilliant.
And we've started working with Sheffield Hamper Company. That was the first project we worked on.
Yep.
We're still doing some work with them.
Yep.
Endeavour, getting kids who are struggling at school a little bit, getting back into the, snapping them out of that and giving them an alternative education, basically.
Yep.
And we've got 2 more that we're looking for approaches from. It doesn't have to be a charity, but just a good. We're going to handpick them, so we're open to pitches and. Not quite Dragon's Den, but and we're going to invest that time and give some time back.
Brill. So if anyone does want to put their name, their organisation, their charity in the hat for that, what's the way to do that?
Just go to our website, which is vividcreative.com, and just drop us a line on the contact form.
Brill. And
say you've heard this and you want to apply for it, and then we'll get in touch and have a chat and and then you'll be seeing the case studies out on our site, and I think that's a nice thing. We did have I was looking back, doing a little reminisce, because our 20th party, we had a big party at work, and I was like, crikey, that seemed like a year ago, and then you realise that COVID's been 3-4 years since.
It's been such a weird 5 years, hasn't it? Because it has feel like you blink and it's gone. But then at the same time, when I think back to some of those like different versions of lockdown that we had, I'm like, that's another lifetime ago. It just feels so distant. It's been weird, hasn't it? It feels like time just works differently now and has done. What was that like then? Because I guess in 25 years you'll have there's been a recession in that time, all the kind of the credit crunch and all that kind of stuff, and then a pandemic, which no one's navigated their business through a pandemic before. Like, that's new for everyone.
I think that we're in probably a much better place of kind of clarity about who we want to work for now. Whereas before, maybe we were probably chasing a lot of people, working for too many people. We had too many clients on the books, and you know what that's like. And that's just driven by this need to just keep winning stuff. And actually, I think that time over COVID, just sort of sit back and think, well, actually, we can't do that now anyway. So you're more like handpicking the clients you want to work with and really matching them up with you and thinking, well, if I'm going to work for someone, I want it to be fun, and it goes the same with the staff as well, because we did see some big shifts with staff behaviour, and I know this is quite controversial, but I only employ people who want to work in the office.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Generally speaking.
Right.
We went through that, everyone working away, and it just, for me, it didn't work for me personally. As a creative agency owner, I've set Vivid up to work with other people.
Yep.
And we know our results are, twice as fast, twice as good when we're in the office.
Yeah.
Like that like the client I talked about in Leeds the other day, we've got a 2-week deadline here. We generated 95 names. We can sit there, we're bouncing ideas off each other, we're writing it on the hoof. You could say, well, we could do that on a it's much more difficult to do it, on a video system. But also, I think just that camaraderie and culture and fun, and we're here. These are all our values. Just fun. Let's kick it out of the park. Let's nip out, have some coffee. Let's get lunch. Let's nip to Domo. Let's have a beer after work. That is for me. That's what it's about.
Let's Nip to Domo is a very attractive proposition for anyone working in any office, because it's an awesome place. Awesome. I realise we're fast running out of time. I always like to give people a kind of an opportunity at the end of these podcast episodes to talk about something that they've never really had the chance to do before. So, I realise this won't be the first time that you've talked to someone about your business over the course of the last 25 years, but, I guess generally people probably ask you the same kind of things all the time. So it's just to give everyone really that opportunity, if there's something that you're really passionate about that maybe you've never really had the chance to talk about in sort of a public arena before, this is your platform. Use it as you wish.
Right. Okay. Wow. I think I think sometimes it's about, I think people sometimes take me wrong as a person. I think it's very easy to look at people and judge people and think, oh, you're like that, quite a big guy, I'm outgoing, and you think, oh yeah, he's like this. And I meet a lot of people, I go, oh, I love you, Gerry, because you're like X, Y, Z. I don't want to say the words, but you don't give a And I'm like, how have you come to that?
Right.
Have you come to that decision that I don't care about stuff? Because I care a lot about everything,
Right.
Quite sensitive about that, actually, really deep down. And I think one of my friends was saying, Mick, he said to me, he says, it took him ages. He said, I've worked out how you tick now. And it was a brilliant little A-board outside a coffee shop in London. And he sent me the picture of it. And he said, it's like creative mind. A creative mind wants everyone to win. And he says, I know now how you tick. And I'm like that. I want, if I'm out or we're out, I do lots of, you said climbing, biking, I do car rallies and, and at work, unless everybody's winning, and that's why I don't get on with these sort of, I'm not, everyone says I'm quite competitive, but I'm not. It's a weird thing. They say, but you are, but I'm not. I don't always want to win. I don't like it when one person wins and someone absolutely loses. I think that's not a good outcome.
Right.
And we talk about it at work, it's about a win-win, isn't it? Even with clients, it's win-win. They can't win and us lose. That's not a good outcome. So I think, the thing, and I'm not sure it's talked about a lot. I think, everyone's, I've got to do this. I've got to do better. I've got to succeed. I've got to smash this. But actually, it's like, if you actually think about your friends group and that type of thing, it's about, I want everyone to have a good time. Yeah, just, quite happily to be a bit subservient to make it flow a bit better, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense.
So getting the ego away. I know, people will be laughing if they know me. They're going, oh, you're a massive ego. I'm not really. It's all a front, It's and when you do that sort of profiling for business, I'm forced as a leader to be that A person, that aggressive, not aggressive, but that leader position. But that's not my natural trait.
Right.
I'm back one. I'm more of a facilitator,
right.
And I want to go with the flow, get everyone involved, and I want to see good results for everyone and the clients. I think it's a really nice way of working, and I think if anyone's listening to this, I think they should have a think about that and how that works in their life and see if it resonates. And I think it just makes things a lot, ideally, less stressful, I guess, yeah. Because you're not in conflict. You're trying not to be in conflict with people. You're trying to go with them. As a community or a friendship group, yeah. And I treat work like that as well to a degree. And it's, I know work colleagues aren't friends as such, but I like to think they are. I like to think clients are friends, but ultimately, when they leave you, they're not, are they? But I think they stay with you for those reasons more so than they do. That's how you keep long relationships with clients going for 10 or 20 years. It's because you've got that you're looking after them, you're putting their interests first, but you're fighting for the win-win.
Yeah.
You're not trying to beat them or the other way, letting them get a better over you.
And do you think you've always been like that, or do you feel like you've changed over the 25 years? Because I think I asked that because I kind of feel like the business world tends to kind of push people in that, you've got to be a leader and you've got to be strong and quite harsh and you've got to be opinionated, you've got to be this, that and the other. And then when people kind of get into it and get to know themselves, they're like, well, maybe I'm not those things. And actually, maybe I'll find my own route.
Yeah, I think you might be right. I think I might have mellowed a little bit.
So it's on tape now, you've said it.
Yeah, but I probably have
all your staff coming up tomorrow going, pay rise discussion.
Yeah.
Have that?
But I think, as you just experience, as you get older, you just find yourself, you get more comfortable in your own skin, don't you? And you realise who you want to be around, who you want to work with, what your skills are, what your skills aren't, more importantly. So I'm staying away from that. I don't enjoy it. Not a lot about it. So, and just surround yourself with the best people, really, the best people. But it is on your terms, I think. I don't want to rattle on a different subject here, but we've had some of the best people in the world, but culturally haven't fit, and that does not work. They've got a culture first, always employ for the culture, and then that just pays dividends when you're in delivery, and it makes it fun to come to work and makes a strong business. Everyone wants to come to a nice business where there's a nice culture.
Amen. I think that's a great line to wrap things up on. So, Gerry, thank you. I mean, congratulations on 25 years. As I said at the beginning, it really is a brilliant landmark and a brilliant achievement. I genuinely hope that we're sat here in another 25 years and still talking about how things have changed and that the business is still going strong. And the best of luck for the rest of your anniversary year. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much for listening to this episode of Steel City Business. It's been really lovely to have you with us. Now, you know how this works. If you've enjoyed it and you want in on future episodes, then just follow us on your podcast app or on YouTube. The show is very active on LinkedIn. Just search for Steel City Business and come and connect with me as well while you're at it. Big thank you to The Curious for helping make this podcast happen. There's loads more about the show at steelcity.business, and you can get in touch by emailing james@steelcity.business. And hey, if you're in business in Sheffield, then, why not put yourself forward as a guest for a future episode? And of course, we're always open for a good chat about how audio marketing could work for your brand. Until next time, thanks for listening.